There's this great quote in the movie Notting Hill in which the Welsh guy, I forgot the actor's name, he's Hugh Grant's flatmate basically, and Hugh Grant comes home and the Welsh guy sits on the balcony and says, do you know, I'm gonna do this, that and the other, and then I'm gonna tell you a story that will make your balls shrink to the size of raisins. And that's a bit like the story I'm going to tell you now. And I've been meaning to tell you this for like weeks and weeks. I've been meaning to write about it, but again, I haven't found the time. I guess, you know, having a full-time, well, it's not a full-time job, actually, it's a part-time job, takes up more time than I had initially expected. But there's other commitments that I have, and, you know, perhaps I'm just going to start these things regularly now so that you get a bit of an impression, if you want to follow along, what's actually happening in my life. And so this is the one that just needs, you know, telling really. So that's why I'm starting this whole, is it a new series? I can't really tell. I've been doing video blogs for years really. I've just never made them publicly. So there we go. Anyway, so at the end of my book, you know, this is where it's kind of starting to come together. At the end of my book, at the end of 2017, we had to sign up in the US, that happens every year, for a new insurance plan, a new health insurance plan. And our previous one that we had during 2017 was fantastic, but we had to kind of ditch that because I had so much treatment that the health insurance company said, well, we're going to have to quadruple the premiums in order for you to keep the same coverage. And that was great. So I could literally go to any of my specialist doctors, and it was a really, really good plan. And the deductible was fairly low, so it was all, you know, it was all kind of taken care of. And we didn't have many financial worries, probably because we had a bigger enemy to kind of, you know, face. So what happened was we signed up with an insurance plan with the same company, Florida Blue. And instead of Blue Options, which was our previous health insurance plan, we decided to go for something called My Blue. If ever you see that written down, stay away from it, because this is now not a PPO plan, this is an HMO plan. And the implication of that is that PPO means I can go to specialist doctors right away, whereas with an HMO plan, I have to go and see a primary physician first, and he will then say, well, you know, you've got a skin rash, so go to a skin doctor, and here's a referral to said doctor. And then I can go make an appointment with a specialist doctor. He will then take care of my problem. So that's, you know, how it works. And the system is more or less the same in Germany. They have a very similar kind of healthcare system going there, and it works just the same way. Often you can't go and see a specialist right away. Well, we could do that with our previous plan, but we can't anymore on this plan. And that's not really a big issue, because all you need to do is just go to see a primary physician, get a piece of paper or an electronic equivalent thereof, and then go see a specialist. So in my case, just to make that point very, very clear, specialists are extremely important, because my oncologist, my urologist, my colon surgeon, these are all specialist doctors, and I need to see them, specifically the oncologist, Dr. Kuznia, so that we make sure this bastard cancer mutated piece of whatever you want to call it doesn't come back. I mean, this is still, I'm well and I feel good, but of course we need to make absolutely sure that this cancer isn't going to come back. And me not being able to see those specialists means that, well, you know, the worst could happen. And so what happened was, we can't go see Dr. De Leon anymore as my primary care physician, who would be wonderful, of course, but he's not in the network. He's the only doctor on this new insurance plan who is not covered. And so that means that we're going to have to find somebody else. And, you know, I mean, considering it is October, you know, I haven't seen any of my specialist doctors yet. And this is why this is so important to put that somewhere, because it's just, you know, crazy. So here's the thing. We found a new primary physician here on Collins Avenue, literally 2 minutes walk away from me, and they started seeing me. Everything was fine. I started apparently getting referrals. The guy, it was kind of a hoot, the people I met there. A very nice center, but the doctor didn't really speak much English, but I didn't really care. I only needed it for these referrals, and apparently he's written all the ones I needed. And it turns out in June this year, when I had a follow-up appointment with Dr. Zomstein, and where this referral would have come in handy, it turns out that that referral was kind of useless. And I'm not entirely sure why that was. It was just that the piece of paper that the man has written was not what my specialist Dr. Zomstein's office needed. So I sat in his waiting room for about 2 hours with lots of phone calls back and forth. Came back to wait for a third hour just to be told, hey look, I'm so sorry, we don't have a referral, so according to your plan we're not allowed to see you. And I said, that is so bad. So it turns out that the new doctor that I had since January never really told the health insurance company about the fact that these guys have seen me and that a referral now exists. Dude, screaming. And therefore I couldn't see my specialist. So file that under completely useless doctor. But the even more dramatic bit about this doctor's practice, and this is not down to the doctor, but literally just down to one lady at reception there whose name escapes me entirely right now. I had a follow-up appointment with one of the doctors in sometime in June also. So I went in and I said, hey, I have an appointment, I've just done some blood work, we want to have a look at my thyroid things, if the dose of the levothyroxine that I've been taking since January or February is okay. They let me do the blood work, I come back for the appointment, and the lady at reception says, do you know what, this is a really bad plan. I said, excuse me? Yes, your insurance plan, it's really bad. And I was thinking, be that as it may, if I want information about an insurance plan, I won't come and see to you. I'm gonna have a word with whoever, but not I don't need to have that information right now. I know this already, and by the way, I'm here to see the freaking doctor. So can I come in? Do you know what? It looks like we don't actually accept your insurance plan. And I said, come again? Because it's not the first time that I'm here. It's like the fifth or sixth time combined with the visits that my wife had at the same practice for the last 6 months, in which any of which appointments didn't have an issue with us having presented that plan. So what the hell, right? So very crazy stuff there. And she goes, yeah, well, no, the dude who was here before me, the receptionist, DJ was his name, very, very nice man, by the way. Yeah, he did something he shouldn't have done, and I've been in this business for 25 years and all that, and so we can't really. So she just goes on, and I said, what is the issue? What must I do so that we can just continue our freaking non-existent referral schmuck treatment here at this rubbish practice? It's called the Pet Center, by the way, and again, the staff are really nice, but that reception lady, the lady who worked there before, she went into retirement, then a temporary guy came in, and now they've got this new person, and I hope they're going to fire her soon, because she's putting people's health at risk, people's lives at risk, like it is the case with me. So she says all I need to do is call my insurance and change my primary physician to their practice officially on the system, something that hadn't happened yet, because for some bizarre reason, the story just gets longer and better, doesn't it? For some bizarre reason, at the beginning of the year, when I picked a doctor from that big list that Florida Blue presents, this practice came up, and it was one of the very few that actually was able to accept our plan. So the big issue with that new plan is that they give you a list and say, hey, pick a doctor from these 50, 60 doctors in your neighborhood. And crazily enough, they've assigned me one, like a random doctor, 30, 40 miles away. I've never seen the man. I don't know who that is. They just randomly assigned them to me, and it certainly isn't in my neighborhood, that's for sure. So they said, but it's not a problem, you can just change that and go and pick anyone. So okay, great, I'll phone somebody, make an appointment in my neighborhood, and they go, nah, sorry, we don't accept that plan. I said, well, my insurance says you do. And they say, yeah, but we don't. And it just goes back and forth. I've tried that with about 6 or 7 primary healthcare providers. Are we going here, or is this going to be a parking space? What's happening? Okay, this is interesting. So this guy's just parking in the middle of the road and is making hand gestures at everyone around him, blocking the traffic. Crazy. Anyway, so back to my insurance story. So what happened was that none of these people on that list that my Florida Blue reckons accept my plan do actually in reality accept that plan. So no one accepts this plan. So that's, you know, kind of a bit of a problem, because I really need this PCP to give me these freaking referrals so I can see my oncologist, so that we can ensure I don't freaking die, right? That's basically the point of this story. And Florida Blue, in their infinite wisdom, made that through a huge amount of bureaucratic red tape more or less impossible. So there we go. That's the gist of the story. That's how kind of the year began. And we were really lucky when I just picked this doctor from their list at the pet center on Collins Avenue. And they were kind enough to say, sure, we'll see you, Jay, no problem. So we've been going there. So all of a sudden, I go on this big list there to change my doctor officially on the system, which I had neglected to do. This doctor in that list no longer comes up. Okay, I thought that's interesting. So I guess the web interface isn't perfect. Let's make a phone call to see if we can maybe, you know, get something done there. So I phoned the insurance company and said, hey, do you know, here's the issue. I've picked a new doctor. I've been seeing him for the last 6 months, as you can see from all the claims that have all gone through. So can I change him on the system, because they're now refusing to see me unless we do this? Lady at Florida Blue at the call center, yeah, you see, this doctor, this practice doesn't actually, like, you know, come up on our system. And I said, I know that, otherwise I would have just pressed the freaking button myself now, wouldn't I? That what I need you to do is kind of manually somehow override this, because at the beginning of the year, which also of course I haven't got proof for that, this guy came up in that list. So yeah, no, I think I'm gonna have to just kind of go, like, you know, with my supervisor, and he's gonna call you back. Sure, supervisor calls me back. This is like having 4 bars on AT&T, really, isn't it? It's just not something that's ever going to happen. And of course, so it was, and no one ever called me back. So, end of the story is, I still haven't seen any of my specialist doctors. I have to find another PCP, and you know, it's just kind of this vicious circle that kind of never ends. So come September, all of a sudden, fast forward to September now, can you believe that? Fast forward to September, Karen from Dr. Kuznir's office calls me, Dr. Karen Stevenson, and says, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while. What the hell is going on? Are you still alive? Type of thing. And I explained the whole story as short as I can. And she said, yes, insurance fiasco. I love it. This happens sometimes, but let me see if we can do something here at Mount Sinai internally. And sadly, it was more or less the same, that I had already tried the PCPs, the primary care physicians at Mount Sinai, also do not accept the plan, even though they are shown in Florida Blue's list to do so, and they don't. So, haha, awesome. But sadly, so Karen wanted to check and see if there was some loophole that we can jump through, but sadly there was not. So not possible to see a primary physician there. But she suggested, why don't you go to the Miami Beach Community Healthcare Center? They pretty much accept everything, and they should accept your plan as well. And it's kind of as much as a social healthcare, community healthcare thing goes here in the US. And I went there this one morning, at the end of which actually we saw Jerry Seinfeld in the evening. We had tickets to see Jerry Seinfeld at the Adrian Arsht Center late September. Very exciting gig. I could tell you a lot about that, but I won't, because, you know, let's keep it on topic here. So here's what happened. So I walk in and say, hey, I don't have an appointment, but I was wondering if you guys accept my plan, flashing my rancid Florida Blue, my blue card, you know. And they say, hey, yeah, actually we do. And I said, oh, you do? And is there a doctor who speaks English here as well? And yes, there is. So that wonderful man I have met after 7 hours of waiting, to keep a long story short, after 7 hours of waiting to see this man, I meet Dr. Mark Keller, and he is now officially on my list of the crack team of doctors that make things happen. So this guy, I see him for maybe 5 minutes, right, after waiting literally for 7 hours. Julia was with me, and she was very kind. She bought lunch from Publix and all. It was very exciting. So I had my laptop there. I got a lot of writing done, so it was good. You know, sometimes having to wait for things to happen is good if you're prepared. So I sit there, I wait, and I get to see the doctor, and he says, hey, I'm so sorry that this took so long, but what can we do for you? I explain the situation as fast as I can, and he says, whoa, okay, so I guess you need these referrals rather urgently. And I said, yes, I do. And he goes and says, look, my assistant's going to be dealing with that. Let's make another appointment to get you checked out so that I can actually put you on the system here. But for now, I'm going to give you those referrals. And what can I tell you? A week later, they physically arrived in the post. So now I have 3 pieces of paper saying, hey Jay, you can go see those specialist doctors. So the first thing I did, of course, was to make an appointment with Dr. Kuznier, and that is happening. So that's coming up. I'm looking forward to that. I need to give him a copy of my book, of course. You know, I need to give Karen a copy of my book. These people deserve to know what a milestone this was, specifically in light of the fact that the official inventors or the early researchers of immunotherapy have just been given the Nobel Prize for this fact. So, you know, it's vitally important that I go and see these people. And of course, for my survival, let's not neglect that. So there we go, that is underway. But before I can go and see a doctor, or Dr. Kuznier in this case, the idea is that I should really have a CT scan. And so we put all that in place. Karen's office, the wonderful Cheryl Rodriguez, dealt with all of this, made all these appointments for me for blood tests. So I need to have more blood work done, I need to have a CT scan done, and then I'm going to go see Dr. Kuznier. I need to have my port flushed. All these things that should have happened like 6 months ago are finally happening this October. So what can I tell you? It's kind of nice to be back in normality, but the amount of bureaucratic red tape that I'm gonna have to deal with all of a sudden is just crazy stuff. So anyway, it's all underway, and that is all I wanted to tell you. I already told you on my website that I've got a part-time job with a company called Instacart, and that is exactly where I'm going to go now. So this is something that I do this part-time. I go shopping for people, which is funky stuff. $9 an hour plus tips, so you know, welcome to corporate America there. It may not seem a lot in light of the how many thousands of dollars we owe various health insurance and credit card companies because of the incidents of the last few years. But you know, little by little, I'm going to pay that off, and that is the plan. That's the idea behind this job. Until, of course, you know, my YouTube venture goes full time, which it's getting better, it's getting there. I'm doing a lot of work on that side. I'm currently working on a series called DAS Studio 101, in between many other videos that I'm making there on YouTube, and the audience like it, so it's great. I think it works for many people as a full-time venture. Perhaps it'll work for me one day as well. I don't really know yet. Which of course then leads me to this next big thing, but I guess we'll leave that for another time. Right now I'm gonna have to go and get some bags ready and make sure, you know, our local community get their shopping delivered. Thank you so much for watching. I will speak to you perhaps regularly when I am on my way to work. Perhaps this is a good way of getting thoughts out there and to connect with all of you, and to make sure my thoughts don't just, you know, drive me mental, but they kind of, you know, serve a purpose. There we go. That's all I have to say for now. Bye bye. See you later.